Okay, guys, welcome back to Box to the Battlefield. Welcome, Dave Forrest.
Great to be back, Davey.
Dave's back on the bench again for the second half of 2018, and we couldn't be happier.
It's been too long. Yeah,
It's been too long. We haven't, and thanks so much for you guys for watching.
Absolutely.
And Dave and I have been sort of on little tours here and there to different model shows, of which we're going to just do a little brief overall of what we saw and what we did this summer. It's July now, and things are going to move fast right into the fall. So we're going to just talk briefly on what we've been up to. First of all, Dave and I visited AMPS in Dayton, Ohio in early May. It was a fantastic show. Probably one of their best, wouldn't you say, Dave?
Yeah, I think it was certainly the highest number of entries of any national amp show, and I think the overall quality of all of the entries. I mean, everybody's upping their game. So it was, it was. I think if not the best, one of the best amp shows I've ever been to. I think probably the best. I really enjoyed it, and it was great to catch up with a bunch of people. And
it's at a nice place, and
and right next to in Dayton, Ohio, it's pretty central, and it was very close to the Air Force Museum there, which is a must see if you're in the area.
I hope they do it again there soon. I like some of the highlights, of course, are Harvey Lowe's T-Lab.
And Harvey Lowe finally won best in show, so he got his master classification there, which is great.
And that BMT by
Greg Henchuk, that was I think certainly in contention as well. I think those were two of the best pieces at the show. There was a lot of great work there.
Yeah, I mean, his small little BMP had 11 figures on it.
Yeah, like
it was
like Greg's a master at doing the dioramas and the figures and the composition, and he does a lot of detailing to his models, and he does a lot of reposing of the figures and whatnot. He's Greg, if you're watching, it's just a matter of time before you get the master's award as well. So
it's great to see how he's progressed too. I mean, you look at his things 5 years ago, above average models, but now they're just skyrocketing.
Oh, phenomenal.
So it's great to see how guys progress. Like Sandy McCrory, another guy. His latest things are fantastic to look at.
Yeah.
And you think,
I mean, Sandy's always been a prolific and a great modeler, and he's always done well at the shows. But I mean, even a guy like Sandy, who's had all of that success, even he's upping his game in terms of the finishes. And
I think actually it's got a lot to do with him watching your videos, my friend.
I don't know, maybe, hopefully.
But so you know what, in little bits, with Andy's hobbies and the things that you and I put together, plus the other YouTube channels that again zero in on individual techniques and how the guys have taken those individual techniques that maybe have learned here or other YouTube channels and adapted them to their own great stuff going on. Man, oh man, it's how the game gets raised. I mean, the things that won Best in Show at AMPS, I would say 6 to 7 years ago, they're silver medal pieces today.
Yeah.
That's
very true.
And so, and unless you bring in your A game, you know what? Be prepared, because if you're building your models and they're not true and square, your tracks are a little wiggled out, or you have a funny little seam that you didn't notice. Unfortunately, when you go to an international show like AMPS, those things, you're going to pay for those little...
when you've got 4 guys looking at your model with like a light on it and flashlights going through every part of it, anything you miss, a seam line or something that's not aligned or whatnot, they're going to see it, they're going to find it. So
I was a judge at AMPS, and I'd like to say, and I worked with Chris Morosco, and it was a great team of guys. I mean, unfortunately, at this moment, other than Scotty out of Minnesota, I can't remember all the guys that were in our team. We took a positive spin on all the models. We saw the odd little thing that had a seam or a bent whatever, but the reality is we tried to give every model the highest award we could give it. Instead of knocking the shit out of them, we tried to give them all the points we could.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a great thing about what AMPS does is we try to help the guy out and give him the highest mark versus knocking him down, so that everybody walks home with a bronze medal and the judges walk around, you know, in this sort of
Yeah.
negative thing, and it's the exact opposite of that.
Well, yeah, and I think you got to look at. I mean, not to belabor this point, but I think you got to look at why these shows exist, and the shows exist to promote the hobby. And so I think if you have a chance of erring on the side of being harsh or being a little bit forgiving, being a little bit forgiving, and I think that promotes the hobby a lot better. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, mistakes happen. You
Sure.
know?
I mean, I do them. You do them. I'm sure, right? I mean,
Tom
they
Brady
happen.
throws the long bomb, and the guy's wide open, and you know what? He drops the ball.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So,
It happens.
yeah.
But and then moving forward off of AMPS, and like one more note on that is just next year it's close to home. It's in Buffalo, New York, in the first weekend of May, and I don't know how many Canadians are going. Obviously, Buffalo borders Niagara Falls or Canada, so
Very close for us. Yeah.
so I would imagine that 750 models at AMPS in 2018 will probably climb again. You know, it'll probably scratch 800 models.
Yeah, there'll be. I'm sure. I mean, there'll be a lot more of us from southwestern Ontario that'll go down because it's in our backyard. So that's and Buffalo's pretty central. So I think we'll see a lot of the guys out of John Benani out of Pittsburgh and Greg Hanchuk will be there. He's out of Cincinnati, I think. So it's pretty central. So I imagine it will be fairly well attended. So yeah, really looking forward to it. I've got my hotel room booked already.
And if you haven't booked your hotel room, you better do it now. I mean, it's July. It's July now, but they fill up fast.
They do. And then if something happens and you don't go, you can always cancel. Like a day or two before. So book now, I think.
And then my favorite place, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Apparently, there's talk that in 2020, near Harrisburg and in between Harrisburg and Gettysburg, there's going to be a show. Now, I don't think this is in stone yet. I think they're still kicking tires about that.
That'd be great. Yeah.
But can you imagine a show down in there in May, and simply because, like Dayton, Ohio's Air Force Museum, you've got that little cachet. All that stuff gets added to these AMP shows. So, 2020, possibly in mid Pennsylvania, and again, like I say, Buffalo, New York, next year, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yep.
Moving forward
Yeah,
over the
really
next
looking forward to it.
24
So
months.
hope to see a lot of you there. And it was great at the Dayton show to meet a bunch of you. It was great to have you come up and introduce yourselves, and we talked about what we were doing on the
our
channel a
viewers.
lot, so.
Yeah, our viewers.
So it was
sort of
it's really
notice
nice
us
to put
and
it's
shake
really
hands
nice to
and
put
everything.
faces to names and stuff.
So thanks so much for that too. And then locally, we had two shows in late May and in June at Torcan. I think they had pretty high numbers too. They had scratching 500 and
Yeah, they were. I think they were pushing 500, and they had again from an armor category standpoint. I mean, it's an open show, so you have cars and planes and sci-fi and all that. But we judged about half of the armor categories, and it was tough. Like it was not easy.
Yeah.
There was it's the same thing as what we saw in Dayton. Everybody's up in their game,
and the presence of dioramas this year at Torcan.
yeah.
I don't know if it was the highest number they'd ever had, but I bet you there was 10 dioramas, which is a large number for them.
Yeah,
And
a lot of
so-
work in a diorama. For sure.
Yeah, for sure, and great dioramas. And the guys from Quebec came down, and so that
And
was
great vendors at the show, and it's a nice venue, and I think from a vendor standpoint,
second to none.
yeah, it's because it's in a hockey rink, and you have lots of room. Like a lot of times you're in a confined area, and you're bumping up against people to get to to the next vendor and whatnot. But there, it's all wide open. It was it's a nice venue.
Yeah, and I didn't attend the Great White North AMP show here in Ontario, but
I was there, and I think the numbers were a little down this year, which is unfortunate. They were just over. I think there was like 104, 105 entries, but it's paired up with the Tank Day at the Oshawa Regiment Museum, and this year I think what might have put some people off is the $40 entry fee, and for myself to pay $40 for a weekend, it's a 2 day thing, and you can only pay the $40 for the 2 days. You don't have an option of paying for one day. To me, it's not so bad, but if you have a family of, three or
Yeah.
four, that can add up pretty quickly. So I can understand why maybe the attendance was down a little bit. But it was a good little show, and I went for the 2 days and really enjoyed myself. There was a bunch of really good food trucks there, which was a nice surprise. And there were the
Went up
vendors
for
were
a
decent.
smog dog, did you?
I did, yeah. It was good. So it was, yeah. It's kind of too bad the numbers were a little down, but the guys did a great job of putting on the show, and
Yeah, I heard that the quality of the models,
and the quality,
of all
yeah.
100 models that
Yeah.
were there, they were all
And
top shelf.
that's a consistent theme that we're seeing in these shows, right? That the quality is up, everybody's upping their game. And I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was a good show. Compared to, I mean, I've been to the show a bunch of times, and I've seen the running of the tanks and all that. But you never kind of get tired. I mean, what's better than having a model show with the real thing running outside?
Yeah,
that's
they had Sherman, and they had some Russian stuff.
Yeah, they had some Gulf War stuff, and it was, yeah, really enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to do it next year, because I think with the National Amp Show being in Buffalo, I don't know that they're going to go and do the Great White. I think they're still waiting to see what's going to happen. So they may skip a year and then pick it up in a couple of years' time. But
Yeah, well, it would make sense.
Yeah.
Make total sense.
yeah, and then focus on doing the Buffalo show. So, but yeah, as soon as we hear something, we'll let you guys know.
Now, moving forward into the fall, there's and again, Dave and I have rambled on here too long already. You guys want to see paintbrushes and airbrushing. Dave and I understand that, but we have to do our little bit to promote, the shows so that you guys come out. But one of the shows coming up is a show in Guelph, Ontario called Welcome, and their theme is the Kursk 75th anniversary. So I've just put together a few little Kursk, and we're far enough out. We're here in July. We're far enough out, providing you probably build Tamiya, or don't try to tack on,
Yeah.
thing with full interior.
Yeah, that might be
It's
a
not
little
going to
ambitious,
happen.
but
So what I've done here this morning, guys, is just put out a few, and don't think for a minute now that all these Lend-Lease things are sitting here that Kursk was sort of Germans versus Americans, with Russians driving the tanks. Obviously, the T-34 was huge at Kursk.
front and center, definitely.
The numbers of the T-34 outdid all the other tanks combined, I'm sure. But as far as new products and things that fought at Kursk, I have a lot of Lend-Lease products sitting here. And I'm not even 100% sure that this Stuart has, obviously the Red Army had the Stuart, but I'm not sure if by 43 it wasn't yesterday's news. But nevertheless, and then we have an endless amount of Tamiya things. These are just 4 units, but I'm sure that there's 12 or 15 tanks in the Tamiya catalog that you could use as a Kursk.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, what a chance to bring out your early Tigers and your early Panthers, your Panther Ds, your Ferdinands, your Wesps, your all kinds of Panzer IIIs and maybe some Panzer IVs, right?
Endless amounts.
Yeah,
So,
just a great theme, and with the 75th anniversary, what better excuse than to go and either visit your favorite hobby store or go into your stash and pull out one of these vehicles and start building.
And don't even do it for a model show. Just build it because it was the largest tank battle, I think, in history. And just do it for those reasons,
Deserves the attention.
Yeah. It's not to be celebrated. It's just time to take pause. 75 years ago this week, the largest tank battle ever, took place. So, anyway, so that's moving forward. That's on November the
4th.
November 4th in Guelph, Ontario, and it's called Welcome, and I'm sure that you could find it on websites. Their show coming up. And then before that, there's a show in London, Ontario on September 22, and that's an all an all-out show, not just armor. That's like
Yep.
welcome. It's got your airplanes and your tanks and automobiles and
Yeah,
ships.
that's the show that alternates between Ottawa and London every other year, right?
Yeah, and it's a great show.
And that same weekend, sorry to mention, that same weekend, so the London show's on the Saturday, which is the 22nd. On the 23rd is the Rochester show. So that might be a doubleheader weekend for some of us as well.
Yeah, and then Sword and Brush, which is I think they're in their 4th year. It's a show here in Ontario that is great promoters of military miniature figures, but they certainly have categories for all the rest.
Yeah.
Mostly
Coordinates.
dioramas and mostly armor, but you want to see great quality. And the Quebec guys come down with their beautiful figures, and holy smokes,
Yeah.
it's awesome. So
The figure painting is a different skill set altogether. It's
Yeah.
Amazing work there.
Yeah, so that's September the 8th here in Ontario as well, and that's called Sword and Brush. And so now Dave and I are going to get on with showing you guys some techniques moving forward this morning. So we'll put all the tanks away, we'll put the shows away, and we'll get on with the other things.
Sounds good.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, and hope to see you guys at the shows.